WorldCoin has been talk of the town, and of course many thousands, hundreds of thousands has been lured into this easy money. And of course, before the government suspended its operation pending investigation due to lack of proper mechanism, of course, to protect or rather to guarantee the safety of our data, that is the citizens' data. Well, this begs the question, how safe is your data outside there? Well, that is the conversation we are having tonight with my guest, that is Anne Gathirwa, the technology and data privacy lawyer. Then we have Alan Kaikai, the director, policy and regulation, Blockchain Association of Kenya. That is a discussion that we'll be having later on here in our broadcast tonight. But our reporters have been working round the clock to bring you up to speed with the latest in the world of politics, business, and of course, sports. Now, these are some of the highlights that, of course, our reporters has been working on.
Tonight, Hustlers University. Ruto says open university to give Mama Mboga and Boda Boda operators a shot at quenching education thirst. Let the talks begin. AUMA settles on Monday, August 7th to commence bipartisan talks with Kenya Kwanza. Scholars urged to put measures to improve history as a subject in Day 2 of Africa History Education International Conference at Kenyatta University. Plus, tapping talent. Mount Kenya youth urged to shun drugs abuse and embrace sport to earn a decent living.
Good evening and many thanks for joining us tonight. My name is AUMA Evans and Samuel Kelo will be assisting us on sign language interpretation tonight. And of course, remember we are live on YouTube at KUTV Kenya, and you can tweet us at KUTV_Kenya at AUMA Evans. Remember to use the hashtag Primetime News. Now we begin our story here, of course, here in Nairobi, where the AUMA coalition has issued and talking points for the commencement of talks with their Kenya Kwanza counterparts in a statement released through its social media pages. And as our very own Munene Weru reports, the party has invited Kenya Kwanza Ichung'wah's led team for a joint meeting on Monday, August 7th at the Serena Hotel in Nairobi. The party has also issued its own talking points, which are inclusive of cost of living, reconstitution of IEBC, and the audit of the 2022 presidential elections, but has, however, not departed from Kenya Kwanza's talking point.
It has all been twists and turns between Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Kwanza on the planned national dialogue since the two factions finally agreed to a sit-down on 29th of July 2023. Their latest row stemmed from a joint statement released by Kenya Kwanza outlining 5 agenda issues for the planned dialogue, issues that the Azimio la Umoja coalition has since departed from. Today, the Azimio la Umoja coalition has broken its silence on the talking point stalemate, issuing its 5 discussion points: the audit of the 2022 general elections, deliberations on the cost of living, the constitution of IEBC, measures to prevent interference with political parties, and other government issues. The stalemate on talking points also brewed hesitance from both parties to call the shots on the commencement of the already hyped-up national dialogue. Azimio la Umoja has now demonstrated its impatience on this standoff and extended an invitation to meeting with Kenya Kwanza, slated for Monday, 7th of July at the Serena Hotel in Nairobi. Azimio officials have also expressed insecurities with Kenya Kwanza in the talks, sensing disrespect for Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga, one of them being Siaya Governor James Orengo.
Tumekubali Raila akisema left ni left, akisema right na akisema tutazungumza, tumekubali tunatuzungumza. Wale vijana wamepigwa risasi kwanza wale wamepigwa risasi na wamekufa, familia zao lazima walipwe compensation.
With the invitation already out and Azimio la Umoja willing to host the meeting, Kenyans wait to see whether the bride Kenya Kwanza will respect Azimio's hand in the marriage. Munene Werukeyu TV.
Well, the first virtual public university in the country is set to enroll learners from September this year. Speaking during the awarding of the charter to the Open University of Kenya, President William Ruto has noted the launch of the institution will enhance public university capacity and offer competitive and industry-driven education affordable to all students across the country. Equity Bank Chief Executive Officer James Mwangi has been named as the inaugural Chancellor of the institution. Now, let's get that story from one of our very own, Joseph Oyomo.
He has done that.
President William Ruto today awarded a charter to the Open University of Kenya, the first ever virtual public university in the country based at Konza Technopolis in Machakos County.
I, William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, hereby award the charter annexed hereto to the Open University of Kenya.
The institution is set to enhance access to affordable and quality education in the country as the government seeks to achieve its objective in delivering 100% transition to higher education.
I'm convinced that the Open University of Kenya will enhance accessible and flexible quality education to learners, making a significant contribution to the human resource capital development of our great motherland.
Through expanding public university capacity, the Open University of Kenya will enable more ordinary Kenyans to pursue degree, diploma and certificate courses through a convenient open and distance learning mode.
It was one of the terms of reference of the terms of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform. Because of the very high priority you gave to this matter,
Mama Mboga in his place can also attend now university. Matatu drivers, border people, when you are waiting for your passengers, you can attend courses at the university. Watchmen, domestic employees, as well as trained professionals and graduates. Nothing says bottom up better than an Open University of Kenya that gives everybody a chance.
The event saw the installation of the Chancellor of the institution, Dr. James Mwangi, who doubles up as the chairperson of the Council of Universities and Equity Bank boss. Dr. Mwangi officially received instruments of power including the charter, logo and accreditation report. The Open University of Kenya will offer courses ranging from science and technology, economic and business, education and agriculture, while offering over 100 courses which will be incorporated in the university's placement portal by September this year.
Bachelor of Cyber Security and Digital Forensics, which, going by recent events in our digital domain, must be in very high demand in our market. Others are Bachelor of Data Science, Bachelor of Technology Education, Bachelor of Science in Business and Entrepreneurship and Statistics, and Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Food Systems, again, because we need to deal with the cost of living.
While complimenting the move, President Ruto reiterated that the implementation of the new higher education funding model.
Right, from education to cost of living. Faced with the biting high cost of living and restless population, the government is going for alternatives to make basic commodities affordable. In addition to subsidizing agricultural production, President Ruto has allowed for importation of more sugar to solve a glaring food crisis. Meanwhile, food manufacturers are planning for a window for duty-free importation of yellow maize to make animal feeds cheaper. Dorothy Mosioki with more reports.
Diminishing. For this reason,
Kenyans are waiting on the government to lower the cost of living. The cost of sugar, for instance, has hit an all-time high of 450 shillings for a 2-kilogram packet, prompting the Kenya Kwanza administration to swing into action.
we now have a roadmap that will be discussed in cabinet next week. And I want to promise the country that we now have a comprehensive plan to sort out our sugar subsector and make sure that that area is properly aligned to serve the interest of farmers first and to serve the interest of the country, consumers, and everybody else.
Maize is staple food for Kenya, but has registered a biting shortage. The fertilizer subsidy instituted to cure the problem is yet to bear any fruit as the country awaits August harvest. Kenya Feed Manufacturers Secretary General Benson Kenyajui decries high cost of raw materials as millers are forced to make importations from COMESA countries. As such, Kenya Feed Manufacturers want government to open a duty-free window for importation of yellow maize to address skyrocketing cost of animal feeds.
We have a situation where there's competition between yellow maize and white maize. White maize for human consumption, and if the feeds processors are competing for the same white maize as a human food, then it puts pressure. So the hope is that the current waiver on importation of yellow maize will continue, so that the pressure on white maize can reduce and the prices can come down.
The government to open for us what we call an import window for yellow maize to come into the country, not as anything else, but as an animal feed raw material. Not for human consumption, but as an animal feed raw materials.
Meanwhile, Narok residents are enjoying price relief on cooking gas as prices drop from 3,000 shillings and 1,500 shillings to 2,500 shillings and 1,000 shillings for 13 kilogram and 6 kilogram gas cylinders respectively, upon the removal of tax levied on gas to eliminate the use of wood fuel.
Watu wamefaidika, wananunua na hii mtungi walikuwa wananunua na 1,600, sasa hii imeteremka. Sasa tunausia customers na 1,000. Alafu hii kubwa tunausia na 1,300.
Mkubwa alisema iliteremshwa kiasi, lakini sasa shida imeteremshwa, unga iko juu. Hii gasi hata kama imeteremshwa, nitapika nini? Ndio na hii gasi nitaitumia na nini? Si unga iteremshwa ndio niweza kupika na hii niweza kutumia hii gasi.
Narok residents and other Kenyans still hope for easing of the cost of living. Dorothy Mosioka, KU TV.
Alright, that story by Dorothy Musioka takes us to a first break here on KU TV Primetime News. Remember, I still have much more and even a couple of stories to run you through. But don't forget, we're having our discussion of today, that is, the ongoing, situation in the country regarding the world coin. And of course, my guest, Anne Gathirwa, will be in the house. That is technology and data privacy lawyer. Then I have Alan Kaikai, Director, Policy and Regulation, Blockchain Association of Kenya. Of course, that discussion will be coming up in just a while. Don't stay too far.
Kutoka kuwa jamii ya kuhamahama na sasa kujumuisha kilimo katika mitindo yao ya maisha. Kwenye toleo la kaunti ya Narok, hii ni Boresha Kilimo, kwani afya bora ni kilimo bora.
Kwani kilimo ndicho huboresha maisha. Now your mom knows about it. And according to her nature, she will definitely humiliate me. And what will other people say?
Listen to me carefully. If you ever claim that Sheba's baby is yours, I'll take you down. Serious. Dylan's an absolute drunkard.
Just give him a break, Nabi.
Okay, but I'm not marrying Zilla.
What are you doing here?
And who the hell is this? You want some?
Just calm down. Be cool.
Get your hands off her, you...
That con man, even from prison he torments us.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now let's move on. The second day of the Africa History Education International Conference being held at Kenyatta University saw keynote speakers dwell on the measures that can be put in place to ensure improvement of history as a subject. According to experts, present history education should be revised to be in line with the different historical events in different countries and continents. This will allow students to have an understanding of their geographical history occurrences. Edward Nyamu attended the conference and unpacked this report for us.
The second day of the Africa History Education International Conference kicked off with presentations on the different measures that can be taken to improve history as a subject. Today's keynote speakers focused on the authors of history books, with the scholars sharing ideas on how to ensure that history of the past events can be tied to locations of occurrences. The historians who lamented that foreign history is biased in today's education want newly published books containing information about a certain tribe or culture to match geographical area taught.
It is clear to me, and I'm sure to many of us in this room, that decolonizing the mind, our mind, that of younger generations, is and will remain one of the most important tasks and challenges ahead. We're indeed faced with the continued urgency to expunge school curricula and textbooks, both in Africa and around the world, of colonial ideologies and their durabilities, which have been sources of distorted and pejorative visions of Africa.
Additionally, Dr. Denise Bentrovata, the keynote speaker today, argued in favor of the inclusion of history in policy making, observing that history is being used as a political tool, hence the need for teachers to think critically about text entailed in textbooks before passing the information to students.
And as we aim to decolonize history education, both with a view to promoting African culture renaissance and more broadly to promoting a healthier, a form of global citizenship through education worldwide. And Kenya, as we will hear at our workshop tomorrow morning, has been spearheading such work in the pedagogical domain, mainstreaming UNESCO's historiographical work into the education system.
Furthermore, history teachers have called upon fellow history scholars to join hands in reviewing history education to be used to transform the society. The African scholars want young people to study the past even as they lament about present history being biased in favor of the West.
We know we talk about national histories, national unity, and national unity histories, but these histories, national histories, how many communities are excluded from the Kenyan history that you're teaching, that is so-called the national history? If you go to Malawi, the national history, you know how many communities will say, I don't see myself in here? Ethiopia, same thing. In any single country, there's every community will say, I don't feel represented.
The event will close tomorrow, where the history scholars are expected to share ideas and solutions of improving history subject in the 21st century. Edward Nyamo, KUTV.
Right, the Ministry of Interior and National Administration is in the process of amending the Computer Cyber Crimes Act of 2018 in order to curb issues of scams, identity theft, hacking, and internet fraud. Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo says that since the act was passed in 2018, a lot has changed in the digital space, which is one of the reasons that have necessitated changes in the law. Joseph Kess now reports.
Interior and National Administration Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo has stated the need for amendments to the Cybercrime Act of 2018 due to the changes in technology over the years.
Definitely there are gaps, and part of that is as a result of the element of time. The Act was set up in 2018, and between 2018 and today there's been a lot that has happened within the space because it's a fast-changing environment. So that is one of the main reasons why we need to relook at the Act. And just like any other law, when you set up a law today, the circumstances today might not be the same circumstances you'll be faced with 3 years down the line, or 4 years down the line, or 5 years down the line, like in this particular case in point.
Omolo was informers from the government agencies with expertise in cyberspace, ICT and digitization has already come up with draft regulations which will be subjected to a rigorous public participation exercise soon before the Parliament approves it.
Now this task force has finally come up with the draft regulations. These draft regulations needs to be taken through public participation and subsequently to Parliament for their passage, and then we are able to start implementing those regulations.
The PS says the regulations which are being sought after will address 3 key issues, which are critical information infrastructure, how to deal with cybercrime and use of cyberspace, as well as capacity building and development for those who will use cyberspace for purposes of communication. The Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act of 2018 was assented on the 16th of May 2018 and was effected on the 30th of the same month. Joseph Kess, KUTV.
Right, still matters cybersecurity. Well, WorldCoin saga, which has put the whole country in tension after the government suspended it in the name of insecurity, alarm raised by the company which scans iris in exchange for the money. The Parliament has today read the parliamentary statement stating their finding and plan to do, as well as question the Interior Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary of Information and Communication, that is Edward Oalo.
During today's parliamentary sitting, Honorable John Mukunji, MP Manyata, sought for a statement from the Cabinet Secretary Interior and ICT on the foreign data collection company WorldCoin. Mukunji wanted the 2 cabinet secretaries to give an information on the steps that the government is taking to ensure control of data access collection and storage by foreign entities, the person that authorized the biometric data collection by WorldCoin, safety guarantees to ensure that data mined will exclusively be used for the intended purposes, among other questions. According to some investigations conducted by the Department of Criminal Investigation, the government concluded that 1. WorldCoin is not registered as a legal entity in Kenya. No one that is directly or indirectly involved in the saga will be allowed to leave the country. The heads of the WorldCoin operations in Kenya will continue to be interrogated, among several other conclusions. While appearing before the Senate, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki stated that there was a need to suspend WorldCoin before it brings any harm, as it had raised an alarm in the country.
We are doing this because we don't want to be caught by surprise. And so when an issue like this comes out, we start asking ourselves where next, and where could be the next trouble. That's why yesterday when we had people, for example, harvesting data of Kenyans the last 2-3 days, we stopped that activity and all other similar activities, so that you don't wait until there's a similar activity. So we are looking at this in terms of the current problem in Kajiado, but also the potential spiral counties.
However, the question still remains: what are the precautionary steps taken by the government to ensure the security of the already mined data, as asked by MP Mukunji. Salma Swaleh, KU TV.
Right, it is 29 minutes past the hour. Time to take another short break. When we come back, we'll be diving direct into our discussion of the day. Just how safe is your data? Well, my guest, remember, is Anne Gadhira, that is the technology and data privacy lawyer, and of course Alan Kaikai, Director Policy and Regulation Blockchain Association of Kenya. That discussion will be coming to you in just a while.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Technovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KU TV, a new experience.
Kipindi hewani ni mitindo ya kipwani. Kama ilivyo kipindi hiki kinahusu nyimbo za taarab, chakacha, midwara, midundiko, bila kusahau mapishi. Ambao ndio uti wa mgongo wa pwani ya Afrika Mashariki.
Jamani, swaibu zangu mliopo maskani, hatuonani wenzangu, najua mwanitamani.
Hapa KU TV, nahodha mwendesha chombo cha baharini, yani ua linalunukia na kuvutia waridi tamu.
What are some of the ways through which you can develop these skills so that you are comfortably fitting into the job?
You have to put yourself in positions where you are uncomfortable in the sense that you are not clear about what to do.
Because I used to work a corporate job before. So when I left, I happened to visit someone's farm around this area.
So this project is called Security Breach Detector and Furnace Familiarize. It is meant to be used to detect, detonate explosives.
We'll tackle all the tough issues, discuss all the weird moments, and hopefully share a few laughs along the way.
Baada ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi wale wana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili
bila uoga. Watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi, hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
We are all seeing the impacts of climate change. In Kenya, for example, the frequency of the floods is becoming more and worse. The amount of people and livestock we are losing.
The level we need to go is the level where the normal mwananchi and also the government stakeholders can uptake the solutions.
Those small acts multiplied by millions of us will help make a difference in the world at the end of the day.
It's just a slight behavior change that we need, and you find that it serves us a bit more than you put in. And that's the goal. We want to live a better world than we found. Because at the rate we are going, it's dire.
We will secure the planet for future generations.
Alright, welcome back, and this is where we pick our discussion. And of course, my guests are already in the studio. That is Anne Gathirwa, technology and data privacy lawyer. Then we have Alan Kakai, director policy and regulation, Blockchain Association of Kenya. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for making time. And of course, before we kickstart this discussion, I want us to take a look at the Data Protection Act. That is the purpose of the act is to give effect to Article 31, Clause C and D of the Constitution, which guarantee the safety of every person and of course the safety of every person's right to privacy over information relating to their family or private affairs and their communication. And of course, there is reason why, or rather the purpose why this act was enacted. And of course, one of the reasons, or rather the purpose that this act was enacted, one of them is of course to give light to this Article 31 of the Constitution. But to be more precise, this is to inform of the use of which the personal data is to be put. The objective is to process all of part of their personal data, correction of false or misleading data, and of course deletion of false or misleading data about them. Well, there is another part of it, that is the right of the data subject, that is you and I as a person. Well, you have a right to be informed of the use to which their personal data is to be put, to the objective of processing of all or part of their personal data, correction of false misleading data, and deletion of false or misleading data. There is cases of exemptions where this is part 7 of the Act, section 51, and of course 51 to 55 of the Data Protection Act, which provide for exemption from the Act in the event of the data necessary for, of course, for national security, and where the disclosure is required under any written law or an order of the court and the event of prevention or detection of crime. That is the only instant where this act is exempted. Well, so what is prohibited under this act? Of course, the act prohibits cross-border transfer of personal data, and we'll take a look at that just to get a brief understanding of what it entails. And of course, except where there is proof of adequate data protection to safeguard our consent from the data subject. Well, it has been quite a busy week as far for Kenyans, of course, as race for this free 7,000 shillings is concerned. But there has been some, genuine concern, if you ask me, from the government and even some of Kenyans. And this begs the question, just how safe is our data out there? I'll start with you, Alan.
How safe is our data generally? Or?
In regard, a lot of things has been happening, make no mistake. Recently we had claim of cyber attack, and some anonymous people were trying to hack into government a database. Of course, claims that were refuted, and the government say we have a strong database, and there is nothing like that people, yes, they tried but did not manage to hack. Well, and that comes, and the world can come at the backdrop of we just have recently such claim of attack, and now we have database, and the government is saying, well, this might be good idea, yes, but just how safe is the data that is being collected outside there? That is the reason why it led to this suspension pending investigation. So,
yeah,
how is our data?
To answer your question, first of all, this phrase in the tech world we use, data is the new oil. So, I mean, before the scramble for data, there was scramble for oil, gold, and all that.
Right.
So right now, there's a very big scramble for data. So how safe is our data? It depends on whose hands it is being held. So for instance, if we started with the recent breach you just mentioned, the government, is that safe? They indicated that it's safe, but the only way we can be guaranteed by that is probably if they produce cybersecurity and penetration testing results to guarantee the safety of data. Because the only way you can guarantee safety of data is actually provide reports, audited reports, indicating that this data is actually safe. So with respect to WorldCoin, their argument on the safety of data is that they have an open source protocol which has been audited by several institutions. And I believe the reason for the freeze for government is also to provide government and local forensic and cybersecurity or auditors or forensic experts to audit the WorldCoin's open source protocol and understand that whatever they're doing, whatever data they're collecting is safe enough for them to continue with their activities.
All right.
So safety of data lies with the guarantee of these cybersecurity audits and forensic reports.
Okay. Well, and there is when actually in regard to this WorldCoin, one of the requirements here, you have to give your full names, something like that, your email address, your phone number, and there is where they ask you to allow access to your contacts, that is contact address. Well, these are very sensitive information, if you ask me. Do you think the move by the government to some extent actually could, of course, prevent Kenyan in the eventuality of what could have occurred in terms of too much information, too much sensitive data out there at the hands of a private entity that, by the way, the government has said this company in particular did not register, is not registered here in Kenya. And of course we'll talk about how can a company operate in Kenya, obtain data from Kenyan citizen without being registered. But first, do you think the move was fine?
The move to stop WorldCoin from operating in Kenya is one that requires a lot of stakeholder engagement. It requires conversations between WorldCoin themselves, the people whom they are collecting this data from, and the government regulators, because there is an imbalance of knowledge between the persons who they're collecting this data from and the company themselves. And the data that they're collecting is sensitive personal data that could be used for several purposes. However, the company claims that the data is delinked from the data subject, and so it is on the blockchain. You cannot be linked back to the person it was collected from. And so there is need for communication and understanding between the stakeholders. However, whether I support it or the banning, for now, not necessarily. There needs to be more investigation into the technology that is being used, both the hardware and the software, and then can be able to find out whether or not the company should continue to operate in our jurisdiction.
All right. Well, does it bother you? Because this is a company that has been under investigation. We have countries like Germany, we have France, we have United Kingdom, then India still raising such concern. Does it raise, questions over its, intention? Because if a country like Germany, France can raise those questions and they are still under investigation and such, looming question have not been addressed, don't you think it's something that, raised some sort of red flag?
Okay, so WorldCoin coming into the market states that they want to create a mechanism through which you can disseminate universal basic income, which seems to be a very novel and noble idea, which is even the poorest of the poor, people who are far-flung, people who are outside of the regular financial system can have access to funds. The purpose of collection and the method of collection is what is raising a lot of red flags for people. And so if we can be able to look at the technology, we can look at the hardware, we can look at the software, the orb, once you have been able to scan your iris, your face, your body mapping, where does that information go? When you read their white paper, when you read their consent forms, it says that data is delinked from the data subject. It moves on and it is stored primarily in the orb until it moves as an encrypted code into their system. So I would not write them off right now.
Okay.
However, there is need for them to do a lot of public education, for them to liaise with stakeholders so that we can be able to understand the system and we can be able to understand how exactly they are collecting and what exactly they're collecting.
All right. Well, Alan, who is responsible, of course, for granting permission for such a company to operate in Kenya?
That's a very interesting question. I was actually having a discussion behind the scenes on that because you've taken us through Article 31 of the Constitution and through the Data Protection Act, which sets up an office called the Office of Data Protection Commissioner. So the Office of Data Protection Commissioner is the office responsible for protecting personal data. Personal data, by this I mean data of individuals, you, myself, and every other person in the studio, not institutional data. And to this extent, the office issues a data controller license and a data processor license. And interestingly, WorldCoin went through the audit process before the launch, and the commissioner issued them with both licenses. And interestingly, if you did a search just before their launch on the portal, you would see them as a registered entity. So any person who is coming to collect and process personal data within Kenya's jurisdiction is responsible for, is subject to ODPC's mandate and is required to have those two licenses. But this incident has just shown us that actually the Cabinet Secretary for Interior can veto the decision of the ODPC, because from the text of the Act, you'll notice that the Act made it look like the ODPC has ultimate power to issue and revoke data processing and data controllers license. But the issue of national security usually takes precedent over any other issue. So when it gets to a point where something is an issue of national security, where the ODPC has allowed you to operate, but the CS of Interior feels like they're not confident with security. They can also have a security oversight to that extent.
Well, today government issued a statement saying that WorldCoin is operating illegally in Kenya. Well, you have taken us through the process. Who is responsible for giving license? So between the body that is mandated to issue the license and the government, so who is lying and who is fooling who? And
just once, you've noticed that there's been a lot of push and pull between government regulators on the issue of WorldCoin.
Okay.
The first statement that was issued last week, Friday, at around 1 p.m. was issued by Ms. Kasait herself, the Data Protection Commissioner, and her position on that day was very passive. She did not take the stance that WorldCoin is illegal, and to some extent it implied that she acknowledged the operations. And that same day I did a search and noted that WorldCoin has both licenses. Then later on, so CS of ICT, CS Owalo, who still validated and said WorldCoin is doing well. These concerns have only come in when the Interior Security CS for Interior started raising concerns. So terming it illegal, that's a very strong accusation. Let's just say they were operating and to the extent that some regulators were not comfortable with, specifically Interior Security, and there is need for further interrogation and audit, but they were not acting illegally. They were well licensed to operate within the country, and they were licensed by the ODPC, and even the CS for ICT himself acknowledged. It's just a matter of interrogating and understanding what exactly they're doing from a security perspective.
All right. Well, and I want to read to you, the reason why Ministry of Interior actually, suspended this. Well, part of the reason was security and protection of the data collected, and how the collector intend to use the data is not clear. That is one of the things. Then there is inadequate information on the cyber security safeguard, and of course the placing of large data in the hands of private business. Well, you understand what is happening here, and this is a very sensitive information as far as the Data Protection Act is concerned. And then I want to get your attention on this, the part that what is prohibited, and this is the cross-border transfer. Based on your knowledge, could you keep us to date on what is happening, how, under which circumstances is this border transfer is prohibited, and under what special circumstances it's allowed? Because according to my understanding, this is a foreign company, of course, obtaining Kenyans' data, but nobody really knows where the information of this data that they collect will be used. Now you see where there is contradicting information. So from legal perspective, put us to speed with this.
Okay, so our cross-border data transfer is where data moves from Kenya, our jurisdiction, into another country's jurisdiction. It's something that happens often, all the time. Whenever you log into an app, whenever you use a website, most of the time those servers are not inside our country. They're usually in another country, and that is where a cross-border data transfer occurs. The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner is supposed to look at the data protection laws in that other country and determine whether our data is safe there, because that is a form of data processing, and storage, collection, alteration of any kind is a form of data processing. And that is something that happens when that information is across the borders. And so there are risks that are associated with cross-border data transfers.
Okay.
And those risks are supposed to be assessed, and the government is supposed to determine whether that jurisdiction is safe. So in regards to this information being with WorldCoin, the data processing is happening in other countries. It's happening in the United States, in Germany, in the UK, in Japan, and in India. Now, some of those jurisdictions have a threshold as high as ours when it comes to data processing, that is Germany and the United Kingdom, mostly because they use a regulation that is similar to ours, the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. However, when the processing goes to America, it goes to Japan, it goes to India, questions arise as to how safe our data is. And that's where the Office of Data Protection Commissioner is supposed to look at it and determine is the protection in the processing in those countries adequate. Up until this point, the ODPC gave them a data control and data processor license. That means that it had gone through and looked at the processing that's happening and determined that it is fine. So you would have to leave it at that.
Well, I'm looking at the circumstances under which it's at least allowed when you give your consent. Well, I'm not sure if Kenyans actually know what they are signing up for, especially when it comes to this. Like you just you go there, you put your details out there, but you don't know this. Do you think under this provision, this one that prohibit cross-border transfer of data, do you think probably this company is breaching that prohibition that is enacted in this act?
Yeah, just to top up to Anna's mentioned, when you're going to apply for this data protection processor license and this data controller license, we just don't walk in and the ODPC hands you the license. It's a rigorous, intense process. So all those things that CS Kindeki is mentioning in his memo, and I appreciate he's looking at it from a security perspective, but they were done. There's something called a data protection impact assessment that was conducted. You'll be asked questions like, are you transferring this data? Where are you transferring it to? So by the time they were getting that license, all these concerns that are being raised on that memo were asked and addressed, and even from her first response.
Hang on just a minute. Well, there is no clear communication as to where this data, of course, is going and how it's being stored and how it will be used. That must be clear.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that I've done a lot of registration for data protection, a lot of clients, and that question is usually asked. Of course, from the public, probably don't know. But if you go back to the form they filled while applying for the license, they disclose that to the ODPC.
All right.
That is something they disclose to the ODPC. And so the issue here is really, let's just say somebody was not doing their job right. Somebody did not ask enough questions at the point of registration. And that is why we have all this conflict between government offices. So in as far as transfer is concerned, as Anna's mentioned, transfer was disclosed to the DPCs and she was satisfied with the safeguards put in place, and she gave them the license. And one thing about transfer is we need to know that WorldCoin is not the first company doing data transfers globally. All these other tech companies have their servers outside Kenya. As long as you satisfy the need for transfer, which is you've put in enough safeguards, then you can proceed with the transfer.
All right. Well, because we are running out of time, I'll give you just 1 minute for closing remark, and maybe that is where we'll take it on, even as you respond to this issue of data, protection. But one thing should be clear. I know there is companies that are, operating in Kenya based on, the whole issue of data. That is fine. The issue at hand here is this company that government is saying this one did not, follow the right procedure. Well, closing remark.
My closing remark is that rather than go ahead, run and ban these guys, we should have a conversation. We need to look into their technology. We need to have our cybersecurity experts look at the orb. It is hardware. Look at whether it is fallible, whether it is susceptible to hacking or any other kind of interference. We need to look at how that encryption is done. We need to see whether it can actually be delinked, if we can reverse engineer it back to our people, if we can be able to track it back to the world account that it was connected to. Those accounts are having people's registration, their names, their mobile phone numbers, and it can be traced back.
All right.
If they can be able to satisfy the standard of cybersecurity, then they can continue to work in our jurisdiction. If not, then the regulators should come onto them, see what's going to happen, have conversations with them and see if they can comply, if they cannot comply, and whether they should be allowed to continue in our jurisdiction. There are still questions, and rather than just slamming it on the door and slamming the table and saying, no, you're not allowed to work in this country, there are opportunities for us to negotiate and find a balance.
All right. Well, thank you so much, lady and gentlemen. Well, that was Anne Gadirwa, the technology and data privacy lawyer, and of course, Alan Kaikai, Director, Policy and Regulation, Blockchain Association of Kenya. Well, your time is much appreciated. Well, that is where we end it for today. Many thanks for keeping us a company in the last 15 minutes or so. My name is AUMA Evans. Samuel Kelo has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Good night and bye-bye for now.